Hi, it's Dawn from Ninja Bunny Crochet. Today I have for us to do this sweet little baby sweater and matching hat. I call this my Rockabye Baby Sweater Set. I have this in two sizes. This is the newborn size, which is a 0 to 3 months, and there's also a 3 to 6 month size. The only difference in the pattern is your hook size. So let's drop down the camera and I'll talk about the yarn I used and the hook and whatever else you might need to make this adorable little sweater set. The yarn I used is Joann's Big Twist Value. This is a 100% acrylic yarn. It comes in a 380 yard ball, 6 ounces, 347 meters, 170 grams. This is a medium 4 worsted weight yarn. You will need 3 colors to complete the sweater set. I don't have a breakdown of individual colors, but the total yardage for the 0 to 3 month size is 290 yards or 4.5 ounces. The total yardage for the 3 to 6 month size is 320 yards or about 5 ounces of yarn. Again, I don't have the breakdown per individual colors. The most important thing you'll need when you're looking for your yarn is your gauge information size for your particular size that you're looking to do, and that will be in the description box below. The hook sizes that I used for the 0 to 3 month size, I used a G or a 4.0 millimeter hook. For the 3 to 6 month size, I used a H 5.0 millimeter hook. You'll want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, stitch markers. You don't have to use these fancy locking stitch markers. You can use just a piece of yarn in a different color or a paper clip or anything that you use as a stitch marker. And you're going to want 4 buttons. I'm going to be using these really cute teddy bear buttons. These are super cute. I'm going to be working the 0 to 3 month size. These are approximately a 1/2 inch button. If you're going to be doing the 3 to 6 month size, you might want to use a little bit larger button, like maybe a 3/4 inch button. So once you have all of your supplies, let's get started. Before we jump into today's tutorial, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that icon right down there in the corner. That'll automatically subscribe you to my channel. And while you're down there, don't forget to ring that bell because that'll automatically notify you when I upload a new video. And if you like content like this, please give it a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that you like my videos, and it also helps me to gauge what type of videos you like to see on my channel. So for today's tutorial, we're going to be starting with this mint green color. You're going to need 3 colors, like I said in the opening. I'm going to be using this mint green, a light gray, and an off-white. So my green is going to be my main color, and this is the color we're going to start with. We're going to be starting at the neckline of the sweater. We're going to start with a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to start with a chain of 53. So just keep chaining until you get to 53. You can go ahead and pause the video and come back once you have your chain of 53, and we'll get started on our first row. Now that we have the chain of 53, we're going to start 4th chain from hook. The loop on our hook does not count as a stitch. Flip your chain over, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to start 4th chain from hook. We're going to be working in the back bars of the chain. The skipped chains are going to count as your first stitch. So we're going to go ahead and mark that. Double crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you should have a total of 8 double crochets. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the next stitch, we're going to create a V-stitch, and that is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And we're going to go ahead and mark that chain space so it'll be easier to find on our way through on our return on our row 2. I'm going to double crochet in the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3. It's very easy to split the yarn when you're working those back bumps. That's 3. Especially when you're working with such a tiny hook. Okay, so we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 2 more. 6 and 7. And we're going to create another V-stitch in that next stitch. So that's a chain, that's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And grab a stitch marker and mark that chain space. So now we're going to do double crochet in the next 17 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 17. And then we're going to make another V-stitch in the next stitch. Again, that's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and we're going to go ahead and mark that stitch, or that chain space, I should say. Then we're going to double crochet in the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, chain got a little tight there, 6, and 7. So let's just double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to make another V-stitch in the next chain. That's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And grab that stitch, grab a stitch marker. We should have 8 chains left, and we're going to double crochet in each one of those chains. So that's 1, again, careful not to split that yarn. This first row is probably the most difficult row of the entire sweater. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the last one is 8. Right, and this is what your work should be looking like. You're going to have a total of 55 double crochets, and you're going to have 4 chain spaces. So to move on to row 2, you're going to chain up 2, 1, 2. This is going to count as your first double crochet. So we're going to need a stitch marker. Turn the work, and you're going to want to mark that as your first stitch. So go ahead and put your stitch marker in. So this very first stitch is already worked by this right here. So we're going to put our first stitch right into this right here, because this is worked. This is where our first stitch goes. So we're going to double crochet into the next 8 stitches. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that should bring you up to your chain 1 space that you've marked. And in that, you can go ahead and pull your stitch marker out. And in that chain 1 space, you're going to create another V-stitch. So right into the chain 1 space, put a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and you're going to go ahead and replace the stitch marker into the chain space. And then you're going to double crochet into the next 9 stitches, and that should bring you up to your next chain space, or to your next stitch marker. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and that brings you right up to the stitch marker. And then again, you're going to take the stitch marker out and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and that is a V-stitch, and replace the stitch marker. And you're going to repeat that all the way across the row. So for your counts, if you want to know your exact counts, it's going to be, you're going to double crochet in 19 stitches, and that's going to bring you up to your next stitch marker. Then it's going to be 9 stitches and 9 stitches. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 2, and we're going to put our last stitch into the marked stitch, which is our turning chain. We're also going to change colors, and how we do that, let's get that stitch marker out, is we're going to go ahead and start the double crochet. I'm going to stop right here and bring in our new color. Make sure you leave a long enough tail. Bring the new color in, and I've already clipped off the end here, and we're going to go ahead and tie these two tails together. So the work doesn't unravel. If you don't like putting knots in your crochet, you can always untie the knot afterwards when you're going to weave in your ends. Now we're ready to start row 3, but I just want to pop out this hook for a second. I'm going to throw a stitch marker in here just so I can show you what your work should be looking like. It should be curving around. You should have 63 double crochet and the 4 chain spaces. So now, starting with our new color, we're going to chain 2, counts as a stitch, turn the work. Remember to mark that first stitch because it makes it so much easier to find it when you're coming back on the next row. And we're going to double crochet in the next 9 stitches. Remember that this very first stitch right here is already used by your turning chain. So we're going to double crochet in the next 9 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that brings you up to your first chain space that you have marked. And you're going to go ahead and put that V-stitch in there. So take your stitch marker out, and the V-stitch is the double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Go ahead and put your stitch marker back. Now the counts for this row, you're going to have 11 double crochet up to the next chain space, then 21 double crochet, then 11 double crochet, and the last will be 10 double crochet. I will meet back up with you at the end of the row. At the end of row 3, and we're going to go ahead and go into that last stitch, that turning chain, and we're also going to be changing colors again. we're going to go back to our main color. Let's pull it out here. I'll show you how to pull that main color back up. I'm going to tie it off. And let me go ahead and just throw that stitch marker in there for one moment so you can see again what your work should look like. The overall shape should remain the same. It's just going to be adding rows on at this point until we're ready to create the armholes. So at the end of row 3 you should now have 71 double crochet and the 4 chain spaces. So now we're ready to start row 4. And we're going to be using our main color or color A, depending on how you like to word it. And I'm going to go ahead and mark that. You can mark it before or after you turn, whichever way you prefer. Skip that first stitch because our turning chains count as that stitch. And we're going to start in the next stitch. And for this row, we're going to double crochet in the next 10 stitches. And our stitch marker got in the way there. So that's 1, 2, 3, put some more yarn here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're back up to our chain space. And we're going to go ahead and do the V-stitch, which is double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And let's replace our stitch marker. And the counts for this row will be 13 double crochet, 23 double crochet, 13 double crochet, and 11 double crochet. I will meet back up with you at the end of this row. We're at the end of row 4, and we're going to finish off our last stitch and change colors again. I don't like where that went in. There we go. That's better. Let's grab up our next color, which is going to be this gray. Pull it through and through. And we're going to tie it off. Go. And again, we're looking like this, getting bigger and bigger. We should have 79 double crochet and our 4 chain spaces. Now to start row 5, we're going to go ahead with our chain 2. 1, 2, and mark the top of that chain. Again, doesn't matter when we mark it, if we mark before or after we turn. And our first, up to our first chain space, is going to be 11 double crochet, remembering that first stitch is already taken or already worked. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then we're back up to our first V-stitch. And we mark it. Now our count for this row is going to be 15 double crochet, 25 double crochet, 15 double crochet, and 12 double crochet. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row, and we're going to change colors again. We're at the end of row 5, and we're going to change colors again. So let's go ahead and take our stitch marker out, and we're going to go back to our main color. So let's pull that color up. Now we're going to pull that color up. Okay, you should have 87 double crochet and the 4 chain spaces. To start row 6, we're going to go ahead and chain up 2 again. Mark off the top of the turning chain. Turn the work. And we're going to double crochet in the 12 stitches, remembering that that first stitch is already worked by the turning chain. And we're going to go in the first and double crochet in 12 stitches. So that's 2, 3, 11, and 12. We're up to our first chain space where we put the V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Place the stitch marker. Whoops. Hook come flying out there. Okay, our numbers for this row will be 17 double crochet, 27 double crochet, 17 double crochet, and then in the last 13 double crochet. Don't forget to do your chain 1 spaces, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 6. We're going to do our last double crochet. We're not going to change colors on this row. We're going to continue with our main color. So we should now have 95 double crochet and 4 chain spaces. We're going to move on to row 7, and this is the row that we are going to create the armholes. So chain up 2, mark off the top of the turning chain, and turn the work. The first stitch is already worked by the turning chain, and then we're going to double crochet in the next 13 stitches. I always want to say first stitch, and technically the first stitch is worked by the turning chain. So we want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 13. And we're going to take out our stitch marker, and we're going to do 1 double crochet, chain 1 in the chain space. We're going to skip the next 19 stitches, and we're going to go to the marked stitch. So there should be 19 stitches right here. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Let's pull out a little bit of yarn here. So skip all of these stitches and go right to the next chain space. And we're going to double crochet in that chain space. And that creates our first armhole. Then we're going to double crochet in the next 29 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 28, and 29, and that brings us up to the next chain space. So we're going to go ahead and take that stitch marker out. Let's pull out a little more yarn. And in that chain space, we're going to do a double crochet, chain 1. I'm going to skip the next 19 stitches, which should bring us to our next chain space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, which is correct. Take out that stitch marker, and we're going to double crochet in that chain space. Just 1 double crochet, no chain 1. And then double crochet in the last 14 stitches. And that creates our second armhole. And in that last marked stitch is our 14th stitch. And that completes the row, but we need to change colors. We're going to go back to the white, or the off-white. So let's bring that out. And we need to clip off our mint green, and we're going to bring up our off-white. There we go. And let's tie that off. And let me just get a stitch marker here just to hold this so that I can show you what your work should look like, because this is actually going to be upside down from the sweater. So we're going to back up here. So these are all your ends, which we can weave in, but this is the top of your sweater. This is the bottom, so if you turn it around this way, here's the neck hole of the sweater, here's your armholes, and the bottom of the sweater. So this is what your work should be looking like. And you'll need just the 2 stitch markers from here on out to finish off the sweater. So you can start to weave in your ends at this point. If you are getting overwhelmed with your ends, you can start to weave those in as well. Before we go on any further, it might be a good idea to start weaving in your ends, which I'm going to go do too, because it gets a little overwhelming with all these ends. I'm ready to start row 8. So we're going to chain up 2. I'm going to go ahead and mark the top of that chain, turn the work, and get that stitch marker to flip over there. There we go. And we're going to put 1 double crochet in the next 14 stitches. So this first stitch is work, so in this we're going to start in the next. And we're going to work 1 double crochet in the next 14 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 13, and 14. And that brings us up to that little chain stitch right there. We're going to work 1 double crochet into that chain stitch. So we want to make sure we get right in there. I'm going to try to get both loops. So there, I'm going to try to get both loops of that chain stitch. Then we're going to work 1 double crochet into the next 31 stitches, and that's going to bring us over to the next chain stitch. Work 1 double crochet into the chain stitch, and then you're going to work 1 double crochet into the next 15 stitches, and that'll bring you, the 15th stitch will be that last stitch that's marked, and I'll meet back up with you when we get to the end right here, and we're going to change colors again. I'm at the end of row 8. We have 63 double crochet. I've changed my colors, and we've gone back to our green color. So we're going to start row 9, let's get these tails out of the way, chain up 2, 1, 2, mark your first stitch, and turn your work. From here till we get to row 17, we're just going to be doing straight, even rows of double crochet, keeping in the color pattern. Since we're starting with our white, we're starting actually with the green, so we're going to go green, gray, green, green, and then we'll go back to white again. So that's going to be our color progression in even rows of double crochet. So your stitch count should remain 63, and we're just following the color stripes. When you get to row 17, I'll meet back up with you. We're at the end of row 17. We still have 63 double crochet. We're going to start working on the button band, which is going to run along the front of the sweater. So we're going to turn our work so we're working along the ends of the rows. Chain 1. I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit. And we're going to work 2 single crochet in the ends of each of the rows. So what I do is I just work it around that last stitch. You can poke it through the stitch and work it into the stitch, but I found it just to be easier just to work it around that last stitch, whichever you're more comfortable with. But you're going to put 2 in each row. All the way up to the top of the neck, or the top of the neckband. And when you get up to the end of the row, I'll meet back up with you. We're at the end of row 1 of the button band. We have 34 single crochets. For row 2 and row 3, they're going to be exactly the same. We're going to chain 1, turn the work, and put 1 single crochet into each stitch. So your stitch counts will stay the same, and you're just going to put 1 single crochet into each stitch. I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 3. And when you get to the end of row 3, go ahead and fasten off. I've already done that. We're going to take our sweater and we're going to turn it around, and we're going to work on the buttonhole side. This time we're going to attach our yarn working from the neck down. So here's our neck side. We still have the right side facing out. So let's get our yarn, put a slip knot in it, and get it on our hook. And we're going to go ahead in the top of the turning chain. Go ahead and attach your yarn with a slip stitch. Chain 1, and we're going to do the same thing we did for row 1 on the button band side. This is going to be for the buttonhole side. We're going to start with 2 single crochets in that first row, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in each row all the way down to the bottom of the sweater. We should have the same number of single crochets, 34, like we had on the button band side. So continue working the single crochets, 2 in each row, and I'll meet back up with you at the bottom of the sweater. Now for row 2 of the buttonhole side is going to be a little bit different than it was for the button band side. So we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to do single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So 1, 2, then we're going to chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, so 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that leaves us a little hole for our button. And we're going to repeat that again. So we're going to chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and single crochet in the next 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then this will be our last buttonhole. So we're going to chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and single crochet in the last 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Remember, that is our slip stitch in our chain 1, so that's not a stitch. To start row 3, I'm going to chain 1, turn the work. My sweater keeps falling off the table there, sorry about that. And now we're going to single crochet in each stitch and 2 single crochet in each chain space. So 1, 2, and then 2 single crochets in the chain space. And then we're going to single crochet in each stitch until we get to the next chain space. And we're going to single crochet in that next chain space twice. Continue working that way all the way to the end, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 3 for the buttonhole band, and I fastened off because my yarn had a knot in it. Now you don't have to fasten your yarn off. I did this because there was a knot. You can just chain 1 and continue on. I'm going to go ahead and weave that end in later. So chain 1, and we're going to put a single crochet in the end of the rows of the button band, or the buttonhole band. So we have 1 in the corner and 1 in each row. And put 1 single crochet in each of the stitches on the bottom of the sweater. You're going to go all the way around the whole sweater. I'm going to back the camera out here so you can get a good idea of what I'm referring to. We're going to go 1 single crochet all the way around. When you get to the button band, put 1 in each of the end of the sweater, of the button band here, 2 in the corner. You're going to go all the way up the button band 2 in the last stitch, 1 in each of the ends of the row, then 1 in each of the button band row stitches, 2 in the corner, 1 in the ends, 1 in each of the ends of the rows, and then all the way around the neckline till you get back to the top of the buttonhole band, 2 in the corner, all the way down the button band till you get back to the beginning and you slip stitch to join. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Made it all the way back around, and we're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet that we made. Not the chain 1, the first single crochet. So the one right over here. And we're going to go ahead and fasten off, and we can weave in that tail. Next we're going to go on to the sleeves. So I'm going to weave this tail in, and we're going to start on the sleeves. To start the sleeves, we're going to start with our main color. It doesn't matter which side you start on. You want your right side facing, and we're going to attach the yarn at the armpit. So you want to open up your sweater and have your armpit facing out, and you're going to look for the center stitch in the middle of the armpit, and here's your armpit, and you're going to look for that center stitch right there, and that's the one that you want to attach your yarn to. And we're going to attach it with a slip stitch. Chain up 3, which will count as your first double crochet. We're going to work 26 double crochet around the armhole. So just, there's like a stitch right next to it. You're going to want to put 1 double crochet into that stitch. And then there's this side of a stitch right here at the end of a row. I found with this, instead of working around it like you did on the button bands, this looks much better if you kind of work your hook into this stitch. It's a little difficult, but it looks better on your sweater if you can get your hook into that stitch instead of working around it. It looks nicer on the sweater. And you're going to want to put 2 double crochets into that stitch. And then you'll have the stitches that go around the armhole, and you just work 1 double crochet into each of those stitches. When you get back around to this stitch, the side stitch here, you're going to want to do the same thing, work 2 stitches into the side of that row, and then you'll have 1 stitch right here, and you work 1 stitch there, and that should give you 26 stitches. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. Made it all the way back around, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of that turning chain. Now, I did not put a stitch marker in there, but if you needed that stitch marker, you would put it in the top of the turning chain, but it's pretty clear right here. 1, 2, 3, that's where you would slip stitch to. And we're going to change colors. So what we're going to do is we're not going to fasten off our green this time. Just the green is the color that we're not going to fasten off. We're going to carry that up on the inside of the sleeve. So just drop it to the inside, and we're going to pick up our new color, which is going to be our cream color, because we're going to follow our same color pattern. So this would be round 2 of the sleeve. So we're going to grab our our white, and we're going to bring that up. And I still do tie these off. I'll just tie it to the inside, on the inside to the green, but I'm not tying off the green. We're just going to leave it hanging on the inside of the sleeve. And make sure when you start your next row that you grab the working yarn, not the tail. You can work over this tail, but for now I'm just going to leave mine hang inside, and I'll weave them in later. So we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. Mark the top of that turning chain. And these are going to be done in turned rows, so we're going to actually turn the work. Just make sure you have enough of your green yarn so that it doesn't, you pull it out enough. And see how it would be real easy to just work over the top of that tail. So actually I'm going to, like I said, I'm just going to pull it down so you can see the stitches. And we're going to work 1 double crochet into each one of the stitches. Your stitch count is going to remain the same, because this, your turning chain right here counts as your first stitch, and it's right over the top of the previous turning chain. And you're just going to work 1 double crochet, get that out of the way, into each stitch. I mean, if you feel that it's easier to fasten off your green yarn, you can do that. It's just if you don't fasten it off and you just let it ride up, you'll have less ends to weave in. So continue working your double crochet in each stitch all the way around. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round, and we're going to change colors again. We're going to go back to our green. Made it all the way back around, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of the turning chain. We're going to take that stitch marker out, and we're going to change colors back to our green. So we're going to bring the green forward, and we're going to bring our white inside. We're going to clip that white off. So we're going to go ahead and stick our hook in the top of that turning chain, bring up the green. Now our green is ready to go. We can clip off our white. So we're going to leave a nice long tail. And we're ready to start row 3. We're going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Mark the top of the turning chain. And we're going to turn the work. We still have 26 stitches. Let's get the stitch marker over there. And we're going to go ahead and work 1 double crochet into each of those stitches. I would suggest working over the tail at the white tail this time, because it'll help lock down that end since there was nothing to tie it to. So I would just hold it behind your stitches and go ahead and work over it for a couple of stitches just to hold it in place so that nothing unravels on you. And I will meet back up with you at the end of the round, where we'll change colors again. We're at the end of round 3. We still have the 26 double crochets, and we're going to change colors again. We're going to slip stitch to that top of that turning chain and change colors. We're going to go to our gray color, Chain up 3, mark that turning chain, and this time I am going to be able to have something to tie to. So we're just going to go ahead and tie that together. We're still leaving our green attached. We're just dropping it to the inside. I'm going to turn the work and 1 double crochet in each stitch around. And I will meet back up with you at the end of the round. We're at the end of round 4. We still have 26 stitches. We're going to change back to our green color, so we're going to bring our gray to the inside, bring our green to the outside, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of the turning chain, which is marked. Get your hook right in there. And for rounds 5 and 6, they're going to both be in the green, so we're not going to change colors between round 5 and 6. We're just going to do 2 rounds of the green. I'm going to make sure that you turn the round in between. So chain up 3, mark the turning chain. We're going to start round 5, slip stitch to join, chain 3, turn the round, and go for round 6, and I'll meet you at the end of round 6. We're at the end of round 6. We still have the same stitch count, which is 26 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and take that stitch marker out, and we are going to be going back to our white color. So we're going to bring our green to the inside, and we're going to stick our hook in and grab up the new color and go ahead and do our chain 3, mark the top of the turning chain, and since we have a tail, we're going to go ahead and tie that to the green. Turn the work. Green goes to the inside, and the white is the working yarn. And that tail goes to the back. Alrighty. Now this is going to be round 7. So what we need to do is we need to repeat our color pattern one more time, and that'll bring you to round 11. So you're going to do the white, green, gray, and 2 greens. And that's going to bring you to round 11. So it'll be round 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And it'll just be repeating these colors, doing the exact same thing that we were doing in these rows. And I will meet back up with you at the end of round 11. I just finished round 11, and we're going to go on to round 12. This time we are not going to turn, we're just going to chain 1. This chain 1 will not count as a stitch. We're going to go right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. So go right back into that same stitch and single crochet. It's going to be tight. And you're probably going to want to mark that stitch. And then put 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. and this will be our last round. When you come back around, you're going to slip stitch to that marked stitch, that first stitch that you made, and fasten off. Then you can back up the video to the beginning of the sleeve and work the second sleeve. Once your second sleeve is done, make sure all of your ends are woven in, and then you sew your buttons on and your sweater will be finished. And then we can move on to working the hat, and we'll complete our sweater set. So once I finish this, we'll work you can work your second sleeve, and we'll meet up again to work on our hat. Here is the sweater, both sleeves, and the buttons are all done. Now we can move on to the hat part. To start the baby hat, we're going to start with our main color. So in my case, it's going to be the pastel green. I'm going to start with a chain of 3. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first chain to form a little ring. Now if you want to use a magic ring on this, you're more than welcome to do that. It's really up to you. We're going to go ahead and chain 1, and we're going to put 12 double crochets right into the center of the ring. I use a chain 1 on this because it minimizes the seam that you get when you're working in the round. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that first stitch, because when you're using only a little chain 1, it can be difficult to find that first stitch. So go ahead and put 12 double crochets into the center of the ring. So that's 2, 3, 11, and 12. We're going to slip stitch to that first double crochet that we made to end the round. Pull the tail, that helps close up the ring. To start round 2, I'm going to chain 1, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into each stitch. So we're going to go right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into and put 2 double crochets. Make sure you put your stitch marker into that first stitch. And then continue with 2 double crochets into each stitch all the way around. I will meet back up with you at the end of this round, where we're going to change colors. We're at the end of round 2. We have 24 double crochet. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first double crochet that we made, and we're going to change colors to our white color because we're going to follow the similar striping pattern as we did on our sweater. Let's go ahead and tie these ends off. Chain 1, and we're going to put 1 double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. And mark that stitch. And in the next stitch we're going to put 2 double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and work over the tail. Just leaves less to weave in. Next stitch, 1 double crochet, next stitch, 2 double crochets, next stitch, 1 double crochet, and 2 double crochets in the next. And that's your pattern all the way around. So 1 double, 2 doubles, 1 double, 2 doubles. So please continue that pattern all the way around to get back to the beginning. And we're going to change colors again. We're at the end of round 3. We have 36 double crochet. We're going to slip stitch to that first double crochet that we made, and we're going to change colors again. We're going to bring up our green to start round 4. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into. Mark that as our first stitch. Double crochet into the next stitch, and we're leaving our white still attached, and 2 double crochets into the next, double crochet into the next 2 stitches, so that's 1 and 1, then 2 double crochets into the next. Two. Again, that repeat is double crochet into the next 2 stitches, so that's 1, 1, then 2 double crochets into the next. 2. So the repeat goes 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So please repeat that all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round, and we're going to change colors again. We're at the end of round 4. We now have 48 stitches, and I did end up fastening off the white because it's going to be too large of a gap between this white stripe and the next white stripe to really carry this up. It'll be too large of a gap, so you do want to fasten off your white or your second color. So now we're going to slip stitch to the first double crochet that we made, and we're going to change colors again. We're going to bring our third color in, and we're going to go ahead and tie that to our green. And we're going to weave that white end in when we start weaving all our ends in. So we're going to go ahead and chain 1, and we're going to put a double crochet right back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into, and mark that stitch as our first stitch. And this round we are not going to do any increasing, we're just going to do a even round of double crochet. So just 1 stitch or 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. I will meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of row 5. We still have 48 stitches. I'm going to take out our stitch marker and slip stitch to that first double crochet that we made, and we're going to be changing colors back to the green color, and for rows 6 to row 11. This is how the colors are going to go. We're going to go 2 rows of the green, 1 white, 1 green, 1 of the gray, then we're going to go back to 1 row of the green. So again, 2 rows green, 1 row white, 1 row green, 1 row gray, 1 row green, and that should bring you to row 11. And we're just working in even rows, so 1 double crochet in each stitch. Your stitch count is going to stay the same. It's going to stay 48, and that'll bring you to round 11, and that's where I will meet back up with you at round 11. I'm at the end of round 11. We still have 48 stitches. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first double crochet that we made. And for our last round, for round 12, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet into the same stitch, and we're going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. So go ahead and continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to slip stitch to join and fasten off. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. The way back around, I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch to join to that first single crochet and fasten off. Now we just got to weave in our ends, and everything will be complete. So we're going to go ahead and weave in our ends, and I'll come right back and we'll have the complete set for you. Here's the completed hat and the sweater with all the ends woven in, little buttons on, and we have the full set. Thanks for watching, and happy crocheting! Bye-bye!